What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we're discussing another NFL head coaching candidate. But this NFL head coaching candidate is someone that is drawing some interest from our team and also another team. You guys know who I'm talking about? You probably do. You saw the title and thumbnail. That's Urban Meyer. Let's get it started.
You know, I got to shout out DoseOfDion, man, because it was actually the first time I went live on YouTube. And, you know, guys don't know DoseOfDion. He put out a lot of good content for the Detroit Lions.
Welcome, everybody, to another video. Glad you guys are here. And today, we're discussing Urban Meyer and what he would look like as a head coach for the Detroit Lions. What would be the pros? What would be the cons? Now, why are we doing this video? We're probably going to do this video at some point anyways. But there has been some rumors that a few teams, at least two teams in the NFL, are eyeing Urban Meyer and potentially just seeing if he's interested at trying to coach at the NFL level, because that is one thing that he has never done. Now, just because, you know, maybe he comes out and says, yeah, you know, I'd be interested in doing it, doesn't necessarily mean your team's going to hire him. He would have to agree on it. The contract is a two-way deal, so each side has to agree. Because these rumors have come out today that the Jacksonville Jaguars, who now own the first pick in the NFL draft, and as long as everything goes as planned, they should get Trevor Lawrence, and also our Detroit Lions, and maybe some other teams have shown some interest in Urban Meyer as an NFL head coach. I thought, why not? This is the perfect time to talk about it, talk about some of his strengths, weaknesses, pros, cons that come along with potentially hiring a guy like Urban Meyer. Now, I want to make this clear. Yes, I'm a Michigan football fan. You guys see it. But in these videos, I throw that all out the window. I do. I really do. I just want to see the Lions be successful. If that means we draft the best player in the draft, but hey, he's an Ohio State player, that's cool. I don't care. I look past all of that, okay? Just want to see this team be great. So that has nothing to do with that. I just want to make that clear. There's no bias towards if he's a Michigan guy, Ohio State guy, Michigan State. I don't care about any of that. I just want to see the Lions be successful and what is best for this team. But this, to me, is one of those guys that's hit and miss. You'll have some people that really want this. They love the thought of Urban Meyer. And then there's other people out there that just say, man, there's too many concerns. There's too many question marks on that resume, and I'd rather just stay away. The defensive back for Cincinnati in college, back to an assistant defensive back coach at Xavier High School. So starting at the high school level, as he worked his way up through the college ranks as he coached tight ends at Ohio State as his first positional coaching job, became an assistant at Illinois State, Colorado State, and Notre Dame. And as he continued to work his way through that, he then got his opportunity as an NFL head coach, as a college head coach for the first time in 2001 with the Bowling Green Falcons. All right, BGSU, man. That's where he started. That's where it all started for Urban Meyer. That's where he got his first chance to be a college football head coach. And BG was struggling, right? They were down in the dumps. They weren't doing too well. They needed some help. They just went 2-9. They were like, what the heck is going on here? So they called upon some help. They tried to give Urban Meyer his first opportunity just to see what would happen. And Urban Meyer, well, he did some good things. He went 8-3 his first year, one of the best turnarounds we've seen in college football. And then that year after that, they went 9-3, including a blowout win over Toledo. So they got the thing going. And by the way, Toledo is a rival game, if you didn't know. It was like 56-17. But he got the thing rolling pretty darn quickly. And it was a great turnaround for Bowling Green. But they didn't get to keep him long because he decided that, you know what? I'm going to see my options. And Utah was like, hey, we're kind of interested in that. That looks pretty good. So Utah decided to take a look at Urban Meyer. Coming off a 5-6 season before, Urban Meyer steps in his first year. They go 10-2. They followed it up with a 12-0 record. Then Urban Meyer decides once again to pack his bags and move on to bigger and better things. But those are some great records. A 12-0 record. They were number 4 in the country, I believe. Once he left, the team then fell down to 7-5, 8-5, 9-4, and eventually 13-0 once again. But you can see there was a little bit of a drop-off once he left. Then he joined Florida. And with Florida, he spent a pretty good amount of time. He stepped in. They were 7-5. They weren't happy with that, right? Florida's known as a powerhouse, basically. They weren't happy with that. Now, they're in a tough conference, the SEC. Stepping in, taking over the 7-5 team. A little bit of an improvement, 9-3. But the year after 9-3, he went 13-1, then 9-4, 13-1, 13-1. Post Meyer after the 8-5 season, excuse me, not 8-8. After the 8-5 season, they then went 7-6. So they took a little bit of a dump down, but they got back to 11-12. So look at that however you want. If you want to look at it as, okay, he left and they got worse, so that means he was a good coach. Or you want to look at it and say, well, maybe he left and they stayed about the same. Okay, he built something there and then it fell apart. However you want to look at it, either way, he has a pretty darn good resume and his team's got better. He never had a losing record. So you take those two things, and put them together and you say, okay, this guy has a really good resume and he just knows how to win football games. I mean, it's just that simple. He knows how to win football games. Now, we'll get into the concerns in a second, but we're simply just looking at the results in terms of wins and losses. By the way, Urban Meyer's never beat Auburn at Florida. But anyways, that's beside the point. Let's move on then. After his ESPN opportunity, he went over to Ohio State, tried to give it a go. Now, he actually left Florida, not because he was fired. He left Florida because of health concerns. But some people theorize that these health concerns, well, there were some health concerns. There was some chest pains and things like that, and also dehydration. They were also about the same time with a lot of controversy hitting Florida. So there was a lot. There was actually, in 6 years with Florida, 31 players arrested. That is a big issue. Now, he addressed it, stating that it is an issue, something that needs to be fixed. But it's definitely not a good look. Then there was Ohio State. there was also some controversy that followed him there as well. This is where the unfortunate part comes in, because as well as he can put a team together to win football games, as well as he can build a program and get players on the field to get them motivated, to get them ready to go and have constant success everywhere he goes, you see stuff like this. And this just happened everywhere, man. And the controversy really kicked off in Florida. And then it hit in Ohio State. And there was just so many small little instances that just kept adding on top of each other, Yes, I understand the health issues are there, but you can't ignore the fact that all this stuff was going on. So these obviously could be tied with the health issues and his decisions to step away. This is a problem. These things just keep occurring. And would that happen in the NFL as much? I don't know. I mean, the players are getting paid. Would it happen more in the NFL? Is this going to be even a bigger issue in the NFL? People even theorize that could be a problem. It stinks, but I guess that's kind of maybe why he's available, because he could still be there if it wasn't for this. I mean, the fact is, look, you got a very, very smart guy that can build a team that knows football. He knows how to win. It's that simple. But then you have this controversy. And if you look at this and you say, you know what? We understand he's great, but to a point, this can't be okay. I understand it. I 110% understand it. So if you're looking at this and you say, just that alone, I'm done with this candidate. Completely understand. You have the absolute right to say that. I have no issues with someone saying that. I really don't. But at the same time, I understand what the Lions are looking at. We'll continue with this. However, there are some concerns here. Leadership and their staff, there's things arguing over who gets, how much power, things like that. That happens, right? I mean, it just happens. To me, that's, something that I think in certain places may happen, in certain places may not. So I completely separate that from character issues where you're seeing problems like this. I mean, these are really big issues. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. Power struggles and character issues are two very different things. And I believe, second chances, things like that, right? You make mistakes. People make dumb mistakes all the time, and it's super unfortunate. You got to learn from those. Lions have players right now that have made mistakes in the past, and they have to learn from those. They have to, be better for that. But are the coaches okay with that? Are the coaches disciplining that? Are coaches disciplining those actions? Hey, we talked to him like when the Lions signed Jaron Kearse, we talked to him, that was something. It wasn't necessarily, I don't think it was a character issue as much as it was with Jaron Kearse. He got caught doing some things he shouldn't have done, like the driving under the influence type of thing. That's not a good thing, but he's learned from that. He's moved on, right? Have you moved on for those past mistakes? Or is it something that the coach just completely will look past just because of the simple fact that, hey, this guy's good enough, we're just going to win with him. There's that level there. I mean, we kind of talked about a little bit with John Dorsey as well, where it's one of those things where they just kind of look past that. As long as what they're doing is working and they're winning, they'll look past those character flaws and those character issues. And is that really the leader you want? No, so maybe in the NFL, less of these, issues come up because it's one of those things where, hey, look, I'm still the leader of this team. I'm the leader of this, what's going on here and what we're building here. But it's not like college where, you're really trying to help these kids, grow into adults. Now you're in the NFL where it's, all right, look, you guys are all adults. You all got your own money. You're probably making more money than me. So look, y'all handle your business. I'm about the football aspect of things. Maybe that's better, but still that could definitely taint what, he's done when it comes to looking at him. But the Lions are already showing interest. So maybe Lions aren't very tainted by that fact. Now, Ohio State, they just had a pretty bad year. I think it was Fickle. It was like 1 year he had the opportunity between him and Tressel, and it just didn't go well. And that was the year that Michigan actually beat Ohio State. They saw Meyer take over, and that was their head coach. In his first year, they went undefeated. They didn't get an opportunity in the bowl game because of the prior suspension. Urban Meyer, they went 12-0, 12-2, 14-1, 12-1, 11-2, 12-2, and 10-1. And that 10-1 season, that's why it's a little bit short because, he didn't finish that season. Ryan Day took over. They went 13-1 the next year, and right now they are 6-0. So, that program is still doing their thing. I don't look at the Ohio State one as much as a turnaround. Yeah, they had the one bad year, but before that, Jim Tressel had them balling as well. There was just some issues with him, and he kind of had to get out of there. But when you look at with Urban Meyer, that's one of the biggest concerns. And it's probably the biggest concerns that follows him around because people are worried with the culture that he builds. Like, I look at it as this, hey, if you're winning games, there's clearly something going right because people are buying into that. However, you want to talk about controversy? Well, this guy probably has the most of it. The 31 players arrested in 6 years. Then you talk about when he went to Ohio State, they had the issues where an assistant coach dealing with some allegations, and apparently Urban Meyer knew about it but didn't say anything. And, then all of a sudden, the health issues come up again. So, okay, I'm going to, stop coaching. I'm going to go back to TV. And it seems like those kind of have lined up. His health issues have kind of lined up with some of the controversy that has followed him. So some people kind of theorize that those go together. I don't like to do that, and I don't like to, discount someone's health because I don't know your body. But it is a major concern. And that's probably the biggest concern that draws with him. But the second biggest concern, just diving right into it, to me, is the fact that he's never coached in the NFL. And the reason that's a big concern is not because, well, I don't think he can, but it's because when you take a college football coach that's never coached at all in the NFL and you try to put him into the NFL, sometimes you get great results. A lot of other times, though, you get very bad results, and it turns into, wow, this did not work out. I just need to stick with college. We've seen examples where it's worked out. Pete Carroll worked out really well. Bill Walsh worked out very well. We know Jim Harbaugh, he had his success. But then you look at those guys with the concerns where it didn't work out so well. Nick Saban being one of the most popular names. Now he's at Alabama. He would never leave there. Frazier being another one of those names. There's been a lot of names that have really popped off in college, and then they got their opportunity in the NFL, and it just didn't go well at all. So it's kind of a hit and miss situation. It could be one of those spots where, hey, it does work in the NFL. He's able to translate. Or it'd also be one of those spots where, yeah, you know what, he had all this success in college, but it wasn't the same when he got to the NFL ranks. So to me, those are the two biggest concerns. Simply the controversy that follows him, the culture, you know, that kind of thing scares a lot of people because it's not very good. And you're talking about kids here. You're talking about guys that aren't getting paid to play. You know, these are guys that are in college. They're not getting paid to play football, and they have all these issues coming up. You know, what does that say about his leadership as a head coach? But at the same time, they won a lot of games. And with Urban Meyer, if there's one thing you could say about what he did, it's he won. Everywhere he went, he won. Success, it's there. I mean, there's really nothing you could look at on his resume and say it didn't work out. It worked everywhere he went. So, big concerns as well. Now, let's hop back over to the pros, and then we'll slide back over to the concerns because I have a lot. Next pro is this. The best college recruiters. And while that's a good thing because it tells that, okay, he can evaluate talent, he knows what to look for, and we'll get into that with the quarterback position. The concern is, in the NFL, there isn't recruiting. The NFL, Dan Orlovsky kept making this point, saying that, hey, your GM is going to bring in the guys for you. While that is partially true, and I see what he's saying there, at the same time, the head coach, to me, has an effect on that. Plus, the Lions could be in a situation where, let's just say, for example, they did bring in a guy like Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer could have a huge say on this. He could have a lot of the power with what the Detroit Lions are deciding to do. So I just want to make that clear. But, yes, there isn't recruiting. And that was one of the best things that Urban Meyer could do in college was recruit. He was able to go to people's houses. This is different. You know, you go to people's houses. I know the story about Harbaugh just because I know it, that, you know, he stayed the night at the player's house. I mean, you get all this crazy stuff, and it's like, wow, that's what they're doing. That doesn't happen in the NFL. It's more about just the money. It's more about, hey, do I want to go play here? That's what it's about. You're not talking about kids anymore. We're talking about players that are probably getting paid more than your head coach. It's a different ball game. You have less power than you did in college. In college, you basically control everything. In the NFL, not so much. It's one of those things where the experience is just lacking, and you can't look at anything and say, well, he was successful here because he just doesn't have that on his resume. Let's talk about Matthew Stafford here. So what would Urban Meyer mean for Matthew Stafford? Now, again, as I mentioned, I think Matthew Stafford is really going to make that call of whether or not I want to be here anymore, right? What will Matthew Stafford want to do? And potentially bringing a guy like Urban Meyer, if you did, maybe that would sway him more to wanting to stay. Potentially, maybe just because Urban Meyer at least has that resume. Even though it's not in the NFL, at least he has the resume of being successful. 187-32 record in college football. So maybe Matthew Stafford looks at it and says, okay, you can show me something here, so maybe I'll stick around a little bit. But in terms of Matthew Stafford fitting in an Urban Meyer type of offense, I think you would think to yourself, wait a minute, this won't work. This won't fit. Matthew Stafford doesn't fit this. And I think, yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards that side too. But if there is any reason for optimism that it could fit is, like we talked about, the adjustments and the adaptability that we've seen at times from an Urban Meyer type of offense. What Urban Meyer looks for in a quarterback, I think Matthew Stafford checks most of the boxes. I watched a lot of videos on what Urban Meyer looks for when he talks about a quarterback. And it's like the leadership, and we know Matthew Stafford has all that. But in terms of what does he do on the field, first off, the first thing he looks for is the quick release. Now, this is something that he mentioned, and he said that, look, not every quarterback comes in and they have it, but we'll work on this. This is something that you can work on. So if he thinks that Matthew Stafford needs to get a quick release, they'll work on it in practice. You talk about a guy like Urban Meyer and what he's going to do offensively. You look at the West Coast / spread offense that he brings, mainly the spread offense, you know, that he always brings. And it's about creating mismatches, numbers, the speed on the field. I mean, that's what he's going to do. So when you look at an RPO type of offense, and he credits himself sometimes for inventing the RPO or revolutionizing the RPO. When you talk about that, well, Matthew Stafford doesn't seem like the type of quarterback that maybe would fit best for an RPO, you know, with the run pass option. But maybe, I mean, maybe some you can mix in. I think Bevel has mixed it in at times with Matthew. Maybe he's not the perfect fit for it, but I mean, it's not saying he can't do it. Again, the adaptability for Matthew and from the side of Urban Meyer shows me that, yeah, this could work. I mean, this could work. There could be a fit here, and he's looking, you know, for a franchise quarterback to put behind him, and maybe he can help find that because it's not exactly what we're looking for. I think it is important to understand that there is both adaptability from both Urban Meyer's side of things and Matthew Stafford's side of things. Plus, if we are looking for a new quarterback, I at least want someone with some experience to be doing that. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't have that NFL experience, so it's not my favorite there, but at least some experience when it comes to, hey, we're looking for a new quarterback. Okay, well, what guy do you trust to make that decision? Hopefully it's someone that at least has done it at one of the two levels. Now, I think a huge reason why quick release comes up is because his offense, most of the time, where it's about getting the ball out quickly, using your speed guys, getting it out to a fast wide receiver, a fast running back, getting the ball out of your hands quickly. Now, they run a lot of the run option, things like that. They didn't do it as much, though, as Dwayne Haskins, but it's still about getting the ball out of your hands very quickly. The next thing he looks for is that throwing power. He wants the guy to have a big arm. He wants the arm strength. He says he teaches his quarterbacks to throw it to the receiver. Clearly, Matthew would check that box in accuracy. I think he also really checks that box as well. The thing that Matthew would be missing here in terms of fitting Urban Meyer's offense, you would believe, is the mobility. But again, Dwayne Haskins didn't really have that, and he found a way to be extremely successful. Now, Urban Meyer in college, he's never really produced a quarterback for the NFL. But the question is, would he have been able to produce a quarterback in the NFL if he was the NFL coach? Because while he's giving these quarterbacks to the NFL, that just may mean that, hey, the NFL, they're not fit for what these quarterbacks can do or what I taught them, and they're not fit or they're not teaching them right. Urban Meyer stated this: every great quarterback has a great team around him. That's one of the constants, is that every great quarterback will have a great team around him. And we've seen that in Detroit. So at least he realizes that, hey, you ain't going to look very good if your team is garbage like ours is right now. But he's all about concepts, not necessarily assignments. Okay, so it's putting the quarterback in the right position. One of the biggest concepts they brings up is the levels concept. Again, getting the ball out of your hands quickly, letting the receivers do it. And I think even though Matthew Stafford is not necessarily on paper the perfect fit for what Urban Meyer may want to do offensively, I think it's important to think that, okay, but how much has Matthew Stafford really adapted over his career? I mean, you talk about all the coaches, the offense coordinators, the quarterback coaches he's worked with. He's adapted. And I think, yeah, we've seen him better in certain, philosophies and certain schemes than others. But for the most part, he's been through a lot of different types of offenses. To say that he can adapt, I think it's just wrong. I mean, you talk about a guy, Matthew Stafford, who's now looking at turning 33 next year. I don't think he'd be completely opposed to maybe getting the ball out a little bit quicker if that makes his offense very successful. Because it's not that Urban Meyer's against taking shots down the field. Look at what Andy Reid is doing with Kansas City right now. Now, Dan Orlovsky kept bringing up the fact that, oh yeah, hey, he's all about rushing quarterbacks. College, that won't work in the NFL. Well, that is true, and I agree with him for the most part. We also have to keep in mind that Urban Meyer has shown us that he can adapt. When he was super successful with Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins had 108 total yards rushing when he finished third in Heisman voting, and he went 13-1. For me, I look at that and say, okay, yeah, for the most part, it's about rushing quarterbacks, but the year he didn't have a rushing quarterback, they still were successful with him. He had 50 passing touchdowns. He just broke all the passing records instead of the rushing records at Ohio State. So while maybe it's not, again, the same exact fit that for Matthew Stafford, the fact is there is some adaptability. There is some adjusting that Urban Meyer can do with his quarterbacks. So that may lead you to believe. Now, let's say Matthew Stafford's future is not here. Whether Urban Meyer would say that because that's what Sheila Ford said, which I think was the wrong thing to say, or Stafford, whatever. When it comes to finding a future quarterback, there's legit concern to say, well, he's never found a quarterback for the NFL. He's never made one for the NFL. But what about if it's for his team? I mean, we've seen some college stuff, it's kind of circulating in the NFL now. But if it's for his team, maybe he can find a quarterback. One thing that I noticed from Urban Meyer is that when he said one guy that he wished he could have gotten and recruited was Deshaun Watson. Well, Deshaun Watson's a really good NFL quarterback. And the thing is, yeah, you can't recruit at the NFL level. That doesn't necessarily tell me that he can't find a quarterback to be successful. The question is, can he get the right quarterback to fit his system, and will that system work in the NFL? We don't know. We see variants of it work in the NFL, but we just don't know if it'll work with Urban Meyer. And the biggest question about Urban Meyer, one of the bigger concerns is, how will the players fight for him? How will they react to him? I think having the resume behind him when he walks in the door, you know what Urban Meyer's about. In terms of winning and success, you know what he's about. The championships, the record, the bowl wins, the 12-3 record in the bowl games. You know what he's about when he steps in the door. You know what he can bring. So I think players will automatically respect that maybe more than a coach that, I have no idea what I'm doing. I don't have any resume behind me. Yes. Are they going to make more money than you? Yes. Are you used to doing things the college way? Absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, the head coach's job isn't to be an offensive genius, a defensive genius. Your job as the head coach is simple. You got to find a way to build a team. And that comes to hiring staff, getting the right players, obviously having everybody play together as one, getting the 53 guys to play together. And it's a lot more than simply just, hey, are you very smart? Can you draw up all these designs and schemes? That's not what Urban Meyer is known for. Urban Meyer, the reason he's so successful is because he is able to build a team and a culture and a winning system. And the question is, can he do that in the NFL? I wouldn't be opposed to saying that maybe he can't. I don't think it's fair to say that he can't do it in the NFL until he gets an opportunity, and maybe if he's willing to do that. The controversy and things like that following him, there's a lot of concerns with NFL teams. One thing I want to point out is when he was rumored with teams like the Redskins, and, well, they were the Washington Redskins, now the football team, but really there was heavy rumors last season about Dallas. But then, he could go to Dallas, right? And that never ended up happening. Now, people speculate why that didn't happen, and I think one of the biggest reasons it didn't happen is simple. You got Jerry Jones there. And everybody knows Jerry Jones is a very big influential person on that team. And, you know, we said for years that, oh, Jason Garrett's kind of just the puppet behind what's going on over there. There's not a lot of power that it seems that Jerry Jones is willing to give out. However, when I look at a team like the Lions, if Sheila Ford is smart, I think the smartest people are, you know, will realize what they don't do best. And they're able to understand that. And they're able to understand, okay, here's what I don't do the best. This is what I need. This is where I need help. Because, look, they're not always the smartest person, but you got to get the right guys that are smart, that do what you need well. And I think it's kind of clear the Lions, their ownership, they need someone that knows football. They need someone that knows how to build a team. They need a leader. And it's not out of the question to say that he couldn't be both their GM and head coach. I mean, let's be real here. We have nothing to lose. I mean, the thing that could happen is what? It goes completely wrong, and that wouldn't be any different. Further rumors that the Lions would hire a head coach first. That tells me that there's a chance this guy could have a lot of that power. The Lions could give him a lot of power, and I don't think there'd be anything wrong with giving him a lot of power. All right, you give him the power. Hey, I want to go get this GM. Hey, I want to be the GM as well. I want that label. Okay. You know, I don't think that's an issue. And I think the Lions, honestly, Sheila Ford Hamp, from what I've gathered so far from her, I don't think she'd be completely against doing that. I don't think she'd be completely against the thought of giving a guy with that proven resume a lot of power. Now, if it's coordinator, I don't think you can give it to him because you just don't know what they're going to do. But you give it to a guy that at least has done it before, even if that's at the collegiate level, at least you can say, okay, I'm confident he at least knows how to build a team. He does have a lot of passion for what he does, and you can tell there's good energy that he gives off the sideline. He's very engaged in games. Some people like that, some people don't. To me, it really doesn't make much of a difference. I mean, both styles can work. You can be quiet, it can work. You can be loud, it can work, right? So that's not what I'm really too much worried about, the emotion, but it's mainly the fact that I think if he took a job like this, it would be a challenge for him. It would be something where he's taking the challenge to try to do something that no one's ever really been able to do in Detroit, and that's turn around the Lions. I mean, it's one of those things where, okay, I've had success at the collegiate level. If I don't turn this around, really not knock him against because no one else has done it. I mean, I could try to keep like my perfect resume going, but if I could do this, I mean, I could go down as one of the greatest coaches of all time to do it at both levels. This is a legit challenge, but it's also a beautiful opportunity to do what a lot of people wish they really could do. It could come down, I mean, he would really go down as one of the best coaches of all time. Yeah, with some controversy, but if you could turn the Lions around, I mean, wow, could you imagine the looks that he would be getting when it comes to ranking himself against football coaches just in general of all time? I mean, that would be an absolute statement. And I don't think it's necessarily that it needs money. I think you would have to pay him a lot. He'd want tons of money, but he doesn't need it. I think for him, it's just, maybe I want that challenge to do something that hasn't been done in Detroit. With no recruiting, with most likely less control in the NFL, where you really have control over everything in college football, with the fact that we don't know if he could find a quarterback at the NFL level, with all the culture issues, with all the controversy that follows him, there are some major, major, major concerns. And I completely understand why you would not want him and why a team wouldn't want him. But I also understand why he draws interest, because he's just successful. At the end of the day, he wins. It's just as simple as that. The guy wins. No matter where he's been, he wins games. At the NFL level, could he do it? We've seen some do it, some don't do it. At least finds a way enough, even with all the controversy, to get players to buy in enough to be successful. Now, some people may look at that and say, with that controversy behind him, I just want to stay away completely. I get it. I think it makes sense. But at the same time, why are the Lions interested? Because that resume's there. The business, you have to find a way to win football games. And one guy that has shown you that he could do it, even though it's only at the college level, and that's a huge concern for me, is because he doesn't have that experience, is Urban Meyer. So again, not my top candidate, not at all, but I can't understand why he's drawing interest. I completely understand why he's drawing interest, because he's been there, he's done that, and he's been really good at it, just not in the NFL level. Will it work in college? I don't know. Will he even want to go back to college? I don't know. Apparently, he's going to decide within the next week whether or not he would be interested in going back to the NFL level. So we'll know. By the time he says that, we'll know. If he says yes, then we're on to something. If he says no, okay, we'll move on to the next guy. But at least throwing the interest out there, I don't think is a problem when you're one of the first teams to do it. Throw the interest out there. Make sure he knows they're interested in it. I really do think it comes down to where the Lions sit in terms of, do they think there's too many character flaws here? Or will they look at it and say, well, there's also the really high amount of success, and you know what, if there's an option, if we could possibly do it, we really just can't pass up on it. Also, it could help in that Chris Spielman is a former Ohio State player. I thought I would just mention that. We also got our former Ohio States on the roster. You know, you got your Jeff Okudas, your Taylor Deckers, your Jonah Jacksons, Jason Cornell, and who knows, maybe he tries to move up and get a guy like Justin Fields in this year's draft. I'm just saying, you never know, but I don't know, man. Where do you guys see it? What do y'all think? I think this is going to be split. Let's hear it. Thoughts, comments. Let me know your thoughts, comments. Thank you for watching, and I'm out. Are you kidding me right now? I had to put my helmet on for this one. Are you kidding? Look at this. Look at all these members. What? Yo, hey, Shout out to all the members, man. Look how many All-Pro members there are. Like, literally, it's the whole screen, dog. This is crazy. The patrons, of course, the Hall of Fame members, man. Y'all got the gold color. It's kind of yellow, but it's supposed to be gold. Shout out to all the members, man. If you want to be a part of this, all you got to do is join the channel. But there are perks that come with it. Stay locked in the community tab if you are a member, because that's where a lot of information comes out. I appreciate all of you. What?